Today is Ash Wednesday, and we begin our journey through Lent towards the celebration of Easter. At Easter we celebrate the resurrection of Jesus Christ. After his death, he rises from the dead and brings new life to us all. This Ash Wednesday, I'd just like to tell you a quick story, and it's a story that talks about something that happened to Jesus after the resurrection. He goes to meet his friends by the Sea of Tiberias, and Peter and the rest of the disciples had just gone back to what they did before they'd even met Jesus. They'd gone fishing. It must have been quite frustrating for Jesus to see them going back to what they did before they met him. But you can imagine that for Jesus' friends, it would probably seem like the natural thing to do. They'd spent so much time with Jesus. It must have been exciting for them. It must have been invigorating for them. They found a new way to live. And then it was taken away from them because Jesus died on the cross. It was like maybe they'd wasted their time. So they go back to their old ways, their humdrum ways. And Jesus calls them out of the boat. He gives them their breakfast, he feeds them. And then he tells them to make disciples of all nations and to feed his sheep. The lovely story is that when Jesus gets back up to heaven, the angels say to Jesus, "Is that it? Aren't you going to do anything else?" And Jesus says, "No, nothing else." And the angels say to Jesus, "But they're just simple fishermen. What if they don't do what you ask them to do?" Jesus just shrugs and says, "I have no other plans." He'd given those simple fishermen a simple job to do, but it was a job that would change their lives. He'd called them to something new. He'd given them a vocation. Jesus does exactly the same for us. Every single one of us has got a vocation, a calling, some job that only I can do, that nobody else will do for me. And as I begin my Lenten journey, I might be really aware of how inadequate I am, how weak I am, and how unable I am to do that job on my own. But remember that when the apostles felt close to Christ, they did many great things. So our job, our Lenten journey, is to do our best to stay close to Christ, and recognising that we're close to him, realise that we're strong enough to do whatever it is he calls us to do. So let's listen to David now as he reads a short piece of the Gospel for Ash Wednesday. In this Gospel, we're given a few clues of how we might live our lives so that we may stay close to Christ.
Jesus said to his disciples, "Be careful not to parade your good deeds before men to attract their notice. By doing this, you will lose all reward from your Father in heaven. So when you give alms, do not have it trumpeted before you. This is what the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets to win men's admiration. I tell you solemnly, they have had their reward. But when you give alms, your left hand must not know what your right is doing. Your almsgiving must be secret, and your Father, who sees all that is done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not imitate the hypocrites. They love to say their prayers, standing up in the synagogues and at the street corners for people to see them. I tell you solemnly, they have had their reward. But when you pray, go to your private room, and when you have shut your door, pray to your Father, who is in that secret place. And your Father, who sees all that is done in secret, will reward you. When you fast, do not put on a gloomy look, as the hypocrites do. They pull long faces to let men know they are fasting. I tell you solemnly, they have had their reward. But when you fast, put oil on your head and wash your face, so that no one will know you are fasting, except your Father, who sees all that is done in secret. And your Father, who sees all that is done in secret, will reward you."
So as you receive the ash on your forehead today, Remember those words. Turn away from sin and be faithful to the gospel. The gospel is the good news, and the good news is Jesus Christ. Stay close to him and celebrate the season of Lent, and look forward to new life at Easter.